Hello everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ, another video race of the day. I'm gonna delve into well, not delve, but I'm gonna go through the pick 4 at Gulfstream Park tomorrow. Some people liked when I did that last time, so I'm gonna do it again. And also, I just wanted to let you know that the weather looks pretty good, so maybe we'll have stuff taken off the turf and surfaces changed and lots of scratches, so let's hope for that. But also always check the plots, they update after scratches, so make sure you're doing that. Okay, so we're going to start with race 5. We're going to go quick. So the first thing I noticed about this, we got a red plot fit. We got some horses coming off layoffs, horses with one race only, stuff like that. But the one thing I did notice is this group of E horses that need the lead. Now, again, it's all situational. You got to look at this and look at some of the horses, but I did already, so I'll just tell you that some of these horses only one run race. They really haven't established a run style, some of them, but it still say that there should be a lot of speed up front in this race. It's a 5-furlong race. They're going to go for the lead. I would imagine the 1's going to go for the lead. The 8's going to go. The 10. I'm just looking at the plot and saying the 1 may be speed of the speed. The 8 also plots well. The 10 is a Ward horse, got an easy lead the first time. In his first race, you can see by the notes here, easy lead lone and the burst, but showed a good burst. And there's only one horse that came back from that race around 15 points higher. So that horse is a contender too. So I want to look at the speeds, the 1, 8, and the 10. And then the off the pace horse is the 4. That horse was in a common race with some horses in this race and was against the flow. So I'm going to show you some of those things in the grid. So I'm going to start with the 1. This horse looks like speed of the speed, ran a really good race, a B+ breaking his maiden to Colonial Downs, sprinting on the turf. Was trying to break his maiden at Churchill and Keeneland earlier in that spring. So you can see his 2-year-old numbers. When you compare him to the Optics Fig range, they're there already. So if this horse has any kind of grow-up potential or coming off a 212-day layoff, he's just by far the best number in the race. So this horse is an obvious contender. That's the 1. The other horse that looks like he's got some good early speed we mentioned was the 8. It was against the flow in a synthetic race, 3rd off a layoff, ran a big race, sprinting on the turf at Ellis Park, and then an allowance race, non-winners 2, ran a 91 B+. And, we've been waiting for this horse to get back to turf. Obvious contender in this race, going to be a must use. The 10 was the one we talked about, the Ward horse, easy lead, gets it drawn way outside, potentially can get caught wide. I don't know how much speed, didn't have to show all the speed he had in the first debut because he made an easy lead. Does he have speed? It's a hard guess. You have to use him if you want to stay alive, I think. I just don't think you're going to get much value. So if I was betting this race, other than the pick 4, I'd probably be looking elsewhere. But in a pick 4 situation, there's a horse you kind of got to use. The 4 was the other interesting horse, and I want to show you. He came out of a common race. Let me just pull that up. So it was on the 19th. So I'm going to look at 1. So here's the common race. 3 horses are coming back from that race. And you could see that the 4 was against the flow, and we projected this horse to improve. You can look at the race shape. It was very slow early, very fast late. It aided the 3 the most, and also the 6 to some extent. But it was really against this horse. So, you never know if things do heat up on the front end with some of those horses. It could line up the 1, 8, and 10. This horse maybe can come running late. So it's those 4 that I think I want to play this race around. So it's the 1, 4, 8, 10. Okay. Hope that answers that race. I'm going to move on to the next race, the 6th race. Okay. So this race, if you look at the plot, most people would say that plot of that 1 looks great, big square. It's quadrant 4, right? Here's the problem with that horse. Look at his run style, EP. I mean, he's plotting in quadrant 4. It's not good. He's got to be up close. So let's look at the grid. I'm going to switch to race 6. I'm going to show you something with this horse that, okay, so coming a little bit, okay, so let's look at the 1. So this horse has won twice. Look how he's won, lone, okay, close to the pace. Look at the races when he's not so close to the pace, not so hot, right? And if you go here, this is his plot location in previous races. Notice when he's not, up close, I mean, above the line, so that'd be quadrant 3, he doesn't fare as well as when he's above the line. So below the line, and what line am I talking about? I'm talking about this x-axis here, right? So so he's below the line again today. Doesn't run well when he's below the line. So that's kind of even though, like, again, sometimes don't just be taken by a square or circle. You got to put it in context, okay? The other thing about this race, the 2 looks like he's going to, try this surface for the first time, or I guess, yeah, he was on turf the first time off a layoff. He's going to have to improve. Doesn't look like from a pace perspective he's going to. That's why he's the red on the RPM you see here. So that leaves us with the kind of the 3, 4, 5. Okay, the 7 doesn't look like a good plot. It's a quadrant 4, big circle, negative. So I'm going to cross him out. So that leaves us with the 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so when I went through the form, I'm not going to bore you with all this, but the 3, I mean, look at who he ran against. He won a maiden race with no lead change with Betancourt at Gulfstream Park on synthetic. Now he's facing winners for the first time. Interesting to see he gets Ortiz, but look at the OptixEQ range in that race, and didn't really come back all that well either. I just think from a class perspective, this horse is up against it. I really didn't find much knocks in the 4, 5, and 6 here. So that's what I'm thinking. 4, 5, 6 in race 2. I think see the 6 is a smaller square on surface and distance, but I think this horse is the most legitimate closer. I think the 4 and 5 are good, early pressers, stalker types. Maybe they sit off the 3 and the 2. They get first run on the 6. So me, it's 4, 5, 6 in race 6. And the big thing that, again, I said, class on the 3 and the 1 not really fitting the race shape with his run style or the plot. Okay, moving on to race 7. This race, I think the big thing about this race is the number 2. He kind of plots pretty well, and I just think I'm going to go to the form here. Sorry for the switching back and forth, but I'm kind of doing this, looking at it, and just as it comes to me, I'm kind of trying to attack it. I don't have any set process here, but the 2 horse, Battle Creek, see how toppish this horse is. So, speed figures, people will be playing this horse, but you get the layoff. So he's kind of at this peak form, and now you got the layoff. Okay, whatever, it's good trainer and everything. But just notice 2 things in this horse. 2 times this horse has been laid off in the past. I mean, there were longer layoffs, but still, I'm going to look at the 115-day layoff. He came back, ran a terrible race. And in fact, it took him a couple races to kind of come back. And then his debut was terrible too. So I'm just wondering if this horse is the kind of horse that needs a race. And, when you're trying to do these things, you're trying to eliminate horses that are going to take money. And he's just based on the speed figures, he'll take some money in that and, connection. So I'm gonna, and his plotted looks good. I'm just gonna probably take a chance against the 2. Now, I don't have problem people including the horse, like you said, he plots well and all the rest, but I'm just thinking this horse might need a race. So that's the 2. The horses that look okay to me are the 5. That's going to be your favorite. Let me show you why this horse is going to be the favorite, in my opinion. Horse came off a 320 layoff and ran his best race ever, and he had an excuse. He was bunched up, lacked room. Gets switched to Ortiz for Walder. This horse, if you look at some of his route numbers, is slower, but that was as a 2-year-old, so a lot of projection up. Obviously thought highly of this filly. They put her in a grade 2 after that win. She kind of busted out, but at this level, I mean, she looks like the horse to beat. So I would ignore that plot, that route plot. Came as a 2-year-old, probably against, races against a lot better horses. I would, lean on her standard plot on this one. The 6, doesn't look like a horse that's gonna have to deal with the 4 early. So there's gonna be some pace up there. The 4 looks okay. I noticed that he gets a return, even though kind of people might think it's negative, that Sias is off. If you look at this guy, Reyes has ridden this horse in the past, and so he knows the horse. So Reyes is back, and he gets a barn switch to Ravelli. Okay, you know, I'm nothing spectacular, ran an okay fifth last time. You know, could luck out and get a trip again. You know, he's gonna have to beat the 5. Not sure, but you know, maybe you know a horse you want to include in your backups. And then I thought the 7 looked okay too. He's going to be a bit of a price coming from maybe off the pace. So if they heat up, you know, who knows? So 4, I like as the early pace horse. I think 5 is the horse to beat. Negative against the 2, and you know, I would include the 7. And then the 3. Again, that's up to you on this one. Is getting the switch back to the right surface. You know, I wouldn't argue anyone put him on a backup ticket. But you know, this race I struggle a little bit. You know, I just think the favorite looks legitimate, and you know, I would back up with if you want to include the 3, I have no problem. Okay, my biggest, I guess, the thing in this race is I'm kind of against the 2. Okay, moving on to the last and final leg. Hopefully, not going too quick for people, but the beauty of videotape is you always can rewind. This race, there was a common race in this race too, that a couple of horses came out of. Well, first let's assess the 4. The 4 was one of the, looks like the speed of the race. It all depends on, you know, what they do with the 2. He could probably cause some problems early for the 4, but the 4 looks like, you know, speed to speed. I just think the problem with the 4 is how he lasts. He has a tendency to back up, and you can see his last 2 races, he had the lead in the stretch, he backed up. So that circle, and that's kind of more of his current form. Could he move forward again? Yeah, maybe. I'm just not crazy about that plot. I mean, he's clear, but I think if the 2 shows more pressure, he could be vulnerable late. I mean, you just look at the plot. I think the 1 and 3 stalkers look really good. Both big squares right in the middle of the plot. The 7 has a nice plot, but the problem with the 7 is his last race. You can see right here on the ride. You don't even have to go to the grid. At this level, it's just a terrible race. So it looks like this horse's form is that, you know, his plot is based on some of his past form, and his, you know, more recent form is kind of fading. So negative on him. But the 1 and 3 really look like almost like standouts on the plot, and I figured they're going to run either the 4 or the 2 down late. Again, the 8 is one of those iffy horses coming off a year layoff for Lopez and Mike Denny. I don't know what to expect. You know, could this horse be involved early too? Came out of a Tampa race. It looks like, you know, it's an optional claim of 75. Looks like it's a much, you know, bigger race. But when you start looking at, and I'm really glad we put this in here, the price or the purse of the race. You know, you compare that race to today's race, and it's comparable. So this, you know, looks like this big drop. Optional claimer, optional 20 non-winners to lifetime. The claimer non-winners to lifetime. It's not, but it's a horse. I don't know. I wouldn't, if you want to put him on backup tickets, just because he's an unknown coming off that kind of layoff. Don't know what to expect. But really, I mean, I think the strength of this race, you know, goes through the 1 and the 3. I don't think there's much else to that. I'd be surprised if one of those are not the favorite. Now, I understand the 3's coming off a big layoff, but it's Mike Maker, got Irad Ortiz to ride. So Mike usually puts him in the right spot. So that's it for me. That's the pick 4, kind of brush through it. But hopefully, again, you're getting little pieces here on how to handicap with our products and how to look at things, how to assess plots. And again, you can go back and look at some of this. And I know I went fast through it, but hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also check us out on the new website, OptixEQ.com. Thanks for listening.